You just checked your phone. There was no notification, no buzz, no sound, no reason. Your thumb moved before you even decided to look. You glanced at a black rectangle, saw nothing, and put it back down. But the real answer to why you did that is much stranger than habit. Because that small pointless motion is not a modern flaw, it is one of the oldest survival programs running inside you, and it was written long before phones, before cities, before farming, before language as you know it. Your brain thinks it is still scanning a horizon. Let me explain. For almost the entire history of your species, attention was the difference between living and dying. Your ancestors lived in small bands on open land. The grass moved, the tree line went quiet, a shape shifted at the edge of the firelight. The ones who looked up survived, the ones who stayed lost in thought did not. So evolution did something clever. It made the act of checking feel good, not the answer, the checking itself. Think about that for a second. Why would looking up feel rewarding even when there is nothing there? Because if your brain only rewarded you when there was an actual threat, you would learn to stop looking on the calm days. And calm days are exactly when the predator is most likely to catch you off guard. So your brain rewards the scan, not the result. It pays you a tiny drop of pleasure just for checking. That drop has a name. It is called dopamine. And most people get dopamine completely wrong. You have probably heard that dopamine is the pleasure chemical, that it floods your brain when you get something good. That is not what the science shows. In the 1990s, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz ran a now famous set of experiments. He recorded single brain cells in monkeys while they waited for a sip of juice. At first, the dopamine spiked when the juice arrived. Reward gotten makes sense, but then he added a signal, a light that came on a moment before the juice. And something surprising happened. The dopamine stopped firing for the juice. It started firing for the light, for the prediction, for the maybe. The brain had stopped caring about the reward and started caring about the anticipation of it. Do you see what that means for you? Dopamine is not the feeling of getting. It is the feeling of seeking. It is the engine of wanting, not having. It rises in the gap between you and a possible reward, and it goes quiet the moment you actually arrive. Your phone lives inside that gap permanently. When you reach for it, you do not know what is waiting. Maybe a message, maybe a like, maybe nothing. And that maybe is the entire trick. Your ancient scanning circuit reads the unknown screen exactly the way it wants. Red, tall, grass. Something might be there. Better look. Now here is where it gets darker. In the 1950s, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner discovered something about how rewards shape behavior. He put animals in boxes with a lever. When the lever gave food every single time, the animals pressed it calmly and only when hungry, predictable, boring. But when he made the reward random, when pressing the lever paid off sometimes and not others, the animals pressed it constantly, compulsively, they could not stop. He called it the variable ratio schedule, and it is the most powerful pattern of reinforcement ever discovered. An unpredictable reward is far more addictive than a guaranteed one. Where else do you find that exact pattern? A lever you pull, not knowing if this time pays off? A slot machine? And this is not an accident. An anthropologist named Natasha Schulz spent years studying the gambling industry in Las Vegas. She found that slot machines are deliberately engineered to keep you in what she calls the machine zone. A state where time disappears and you keep pulling, not because you expect to win, but because the uncertainty itself has captured you. Now look down at your hand, the pull to refresh, the swipe down that reloads the feed, the thumb flick that spins a new set of images in front of your eyes. That gesture was designed using the same psychology as the slot machine. The pause before the page loads is the spin, the new content is the payout, and the fact that you never know what you will get is exactly the point. Your phone is not a tool you happen to use too much. For the part of the brain that controls wanting, it is a slot machine that fits in your pocket and never closes. But threats and rewards are only half of the story. There is a second ancient hunger, and it is even harder to see. You are a profoundly social animal. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent his career studying the social lives of primates and humans. He noticed that the size of a primate's brain, specifically the neocortex, tracks closely with the size of its social group. The bigger the social world, the bigger the brain needed to keep up with it. His conclusion was striking. A huge part of a human intelligence did not evolve to make tools or hunt. It evolved to track other people. Who is allied with whom? Who owes you? Who is angry? Who has risen? Who has fallen? For your ancestors, falling out of the group was a death sentence. Alone on the savanna, a single human did not last long. So your brain treats your social standing as a survival resource, and it monitors that standing constantly in the background whether you want it to or not. Now ask yourself, what is a social feed? It is a live readout of your entire group. Who is doing well, who is celebrating, who is together without you, who responded and who did not. Every time you check, you are not being shallow. You are running a 2 million-year-old subroutine that asks one question on a loop: where do I stand? That is why the empty check feels urgent even when you know better. Your conscious mind says there is nothing there, but an older part of you cannot afford to assume that. In the world it was built for, missing a shift in the group could cost you everything. There is a strange piece of evidence for all of this, and you have probably felt it yourself. The phantom vibration. That moment when you feel your phone buzz in your pocket, reach for it, and find that nothing happened at all. Researchers have studied this. Surveys of students and hospital workers found that the large majority had felt it, some of them every week. Your brain is so primed to detect a signal from the device that it invents one. It would rather warn you about a buzz that is not there than risk missing a buzz that is. Think about how old that wiring is. A false alarm cost you almost nothing. A missed alarm could once have cost you your life. So your brain was tuned over millions of years to err toward the false alarm, to jump at the shadow, to assume the rustle is a tiger and be wrong, rather than assume it is wind and be eaten. That same setting is now firing inside your leg for a phone all day long. And the people who build these systems understand this perfectly. A team led by neuroscientists like Adam Gazzali and the psychologist Larry Rosen described the modern mind as a constantly interrupted one. They argue that your brain did not evolve for sustained focus. It evolved to be interruptible, to drop everything and look the instant something changed, because for your ancestors that change might be food, danger, or arrival. Focus was a luxury. Vigilance was the default. So when you sit down to do one quiet, deep task and you feel that itch to check, you are not failing at concentration. You are doing exactly what you are built to do. You are staying interruptible. The tragedy is that there is nothing on the savanna anymore. There is only the rectangle pulling on the oldest lever you own. Now bring those three forces together and look at them at once. A brain that rewards the scan, a chemical that craves the maybe, a mind that cannot stop tracking the group. Each one kept your ancestors alive. Each one alone was a gift. And all three have been aimed at the same time at a single object in your hand. That is the real design, not one trick, but a stack of them, each pressing on an instinct you never agreed to and cannot simply switch off. So let me ask you the uncomfortable question. If none of this is really your fault, does that make it better or worse? Here is the honest answer. It is both. It is freeing because you can stop blaming your willpower. You are not weak. You are running ancient software in an environment that was deliberately designed to exploit it. A scanning brain, a seeking chemical, and a social monitor, all aimed at a glowing rectangle by people who studied exactly how those systems work. But it is also a warning, because knowing the trap does not automatically free you from it. The grass still moves, the dopamine still rises in the gap, the group still pulls at you from the screen. And notice how perfectly the modern world fits the trap. Your ancestors checked the horizon a few times an hour, and the rest of the time the world was quiet. There was nothing to scan. The grass was still. But your phone is never still. There is always a new message somewhere, a new post, a new number climbing or falling. The savanna had calm hours built into it. The feed was engineered to remove them. So the instinct that once fired a handful of times a day now fires 1,000. Studies of phone use have found that the average person touches their device well over 1,000 times a day and checks it more than 50 times, most of those checks lasting only seconds. You are not choosing to do that 50 times. A part of you that cannot count is simply scanning, the way it always has, in a world that finally gave it an infinite horizon. What changes is what you do with that knowledge. The next time your thumb moves on its own, you can pause for half a second and notice it. Not with shame, with recognition. That is the scanner, that is the seeker, that is the part of you that kept your ancestors alive, firing at a target that no longer matters. You can put the grass back where it belongs, because here is the truth that ties all of this together. The problem was never that you check your phone too much. The problem is that a survival instinct older than language found a machine that never stops moving, and it cannot tell the difference between a predator in the grass and a notification that was never there. You just checked your phone, and now you know it was never really the phone you were looking at.